Around 60 trucks carrying relief supplies have arrived in the north of the Gaza Strip, where Israel's military has focused its actions against Hamas. It's the largest delivery there since the war began and represents around a third of the number of aid trucks that had entered the Gaza Strip by Saturday night. They began crossing the Rafah boarding checkpoint with Egypt after the truce took effect. The UN says it needs to be able to distribute aid throughout the territory. Israel released the second group of Palestinian prisoners Saturday, the second of four groups under its agreement with Hamas. The detainees were handed to the International Committee of the Red Cross at the Ofer Jail amid heavy Israeli police presence.
Welcomed with celebrations. The second group of Palestinian prisoners released by Israel. Among them, 6 women and 33 teenagers. Many still in disbelief.
I couldn't believe what happened. I'd been sentenced to 3 years in prison, and I had 2.5 years left until my release date. Suddenly, a guard came and told me that he would release me.
Among the crowd, clear signs of support for the militant group Hamas, designated as a terrorist group by the EU, the US and other countries, and the group responsible for the October 7th terror attacks on Israel. Among the released prisoners is Isra Jabis. Arrested in 2015, she was accused of exploding her car at an Israeli military checkpoint in the West Bank. The incident left her disfigured and an Israeli police officer seriously injured. Israeli authorities called it an act of terrorism. She claimed it was an accident. The prisoner releases are part of a 4-day truce between Hamas and Israel, under which Hamas is freeing Israelis seized during the October 7th attacks.
Journalist Hazem Balousha was in Gaza until recently. He joins us now from the Jordanian capital, Amman. Hazem, we just saw in that report Palestinians released from Israeli prisons being received by crowds waving Hamas flags. You've covered the West Bank for years. How much support does Hamas have there?
Well, it's not easy to measure this, how popular Hamas in the West Bank or even in Gaza, because the last election took place in the Palestinian Territories was in early 2006 when Hamas won the election, or the majority of the seats in the parliament. But apparently, due to the lack of a path of peace process that led by Palestinian Authority or President Mahmoud Abbas, and the failure of achieving the Palestinian goals, and as the Palestinians believe that they want to be achieved to have a Palestinian state and on the within 67 borders, the popularity of Hamas is increasing. There is a split among the Palestinians, whether in Gaza or in West Bank, actually, whether to support the path of the peace process or what they call it, the resistance to achieve the Palestinian goals.
Still, I wonder, is this prisoner for hostages swap seen as a victory for Hamas in the Palestinian territories?
In fact, there is a split in the Palestinian community, whether in Gaza or in the West Bank or even abroad. Some people would say that this is like the release of the prisoners is a noble issue, and we Palestinians should sacrifice for it, and they have to achieve it no matter what the price is. But still, some others, especially in Gaza, then there are many voices raised, whether in the public, in the street, or some people wrote it publicly out on social media platforms that they are criticizing Hamas. This is not worth it. The loss is, and the price is very high. In the West Bank, it could be different a little bit, but there is a more gain of popularity among the Palestinians there.
As you know, of course, tensions have been heightened in the West Bank since the Hamas attacks on Israel. In the last 24 hours, we've seen violence flaring in Jenin. How is the war in Gaza impacting the lives of Palestinians in the West Bank?
It's not easy as well here to say. It's vice versa. It happens, what happens in the West Bank sometimes affects Gaza, and the vice versa. What happens in Gaza has an impact on the West Bank. But apparently what happens in Jenin now is separated of what happened in Gaza or going on regarding the war. It's not a new thing that the attacks on Jenin or the militants there. Many incidents, many raids took place in Nablus or Jenin or other places. In what happens in Gaza, of course, that increased the anger among the Palestinians. Sometimes it's not easy for them to move. Hamas actually is trying to push the Palestinians in the West Bank to act and to go out to the streets to protest, to confront the Israeli troops along the West Bank. But we can't say that this is what happened in Jenin is particularly because of the war in Gaza.
Got it. We'll have to end it there. Journalist Hazem Balousha in Amman, many, many thanks.